Welcome to the Leader More podcast. Our motive is to pass on what we've found helpful over the years through leading teams, running operations, and dealing with life's challenges. We hope you enjoy. Yeah, interesting because just more traffic, or there's more stuff you've got to do?
Yeah, there's a lot more planning, takes a lot longer to get ready, a lot of radio calls to remember. It's different to being in uncontrolled airspace. Yeah, you just got to it's just a lot of preparation, a lot of planning. It's interesting, because there's a lot more traffic around. You're closer to the city, close to Perth Airport as well, going up there. You're not just talking out loud on a common frequency to whoever may or may not be there. It could be empty and you still say it. You're talking back and forth between people. So makes it a little bit sort of, scarier to a degree. Yeah. People are judging you over the radio, but
just your voice and stuff, or what you say?
Yeah, I don't like hearing my voice, which is it's weird being here. But you don't like hearing your own voice. You don't want to say the wrong thing. You want to get it right. So it makes it sort of nervous going in. Yeah.
And the preparation prior to taking off, how much is that, an hour? Like, how much work you got to do?
I probably do, a lot of my flights are about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I get there about 3 hours before. So I get there about 10.
Okay.
And that gives me some time to eat lunch before I go.
Have a vape or what?
No. But it takes, these Jandakot longer flights take probably about 3 hours. All the weather, all the nav planning, all the maps, everything, yeah. And then you got a pre-flight, get the plane ready, make sure it's filled up, everything's ready to go.
Yeah.
Sit down, have a quick chat before you fly. So you want to be taking off around that 1 o'clock, 1:30. So it does take about 3 hours.
Yeah, you don't want to rush that, I don't
No. And when it is a bit tight, you sort of feel a bit funny about it.
Yeah.
Not that you are still rushing anything, but it just, you feel like you're missing something sometimes and whatever. But
essentially you're getting everything ready. So what's that involved? That's the weather, that's your fuel, that's your takeoff distances, all this sort of stuff, the legs and all the different waypoints that you get into.
It's okay, where am I going for this flight? So start to finish, all the legs, so all the waypoints to and from the departure airport. You plan that out on your map that you're going to be using in flight to track where you are, and then from there you can work out your distances, so you can work out how long the flight's going to be. You work out your winds, so how that affects your heading in flight. Or your fuel requirements, depending on the weather as well. Whether you're solo or whether you're with an instructor will depend on fuel, things like that. So
all your weight
and balance, performance calculations for the plane, so that you know what your landing and takeoff distances are going to be, all these sorts of things. So there's a whole range of different things that all link together to be able to sort of plan for that flight, so that okay, this is what I'm going to be doing and this is how I'm going to be able to do it. And then, like we said, how if things do go wrong, or I need to go somewhere, or I can't land here, or I need to ditch in a field, you've got a mental picture of what that looks like. You've trained for it, but you also know, fresh in your mind, I need this distance to land, so I need this kind of field and things like that. So
and then when you're up, is that just constant checking against that plan? Is that your progress?
So so as soon as you take off, the main thing is your first heading, realign your DG with your compass, your magnetic compass, so that you're on track. That's sort of the bare minimum.
DG, what's that?
So you got your directional gyro or your directional indicator in the plane, which is in the 6-pack of instruments that you fly with. And then you got your magnetic compass sort of up in the windscreen. The DGs do wander in flight, so you have to realign those as part of your checks. So you do that straight away so that you're on track straight away. So you do that, and then as you're going, you're checking in flight to make sure, am I on the right heading? Am I flying as fast or as slow as I think I'm going to be going? Am I off track? Those sorts of things.
So you're constantly calibrating your instruments as well?
Yeah, constantly calibrating them. Yeah, just to make sure I'm the right height and I'm the right sort of direction. Yeah. So otherwise, you find yourself off track and things. So
there's a bit involved. Like you probably find yourself looking down most of the time.
Yeah, looking down a lot. It did make me quite sick actually at the start. It's like looking down in a car.
Yeah,
A
I'd
little
be
bit worse
naked.
because you can't see. If you're in a car, you can see what the road's going to look like, where it's going to bend and bump and things like that. But in the air, no idea. So you'll be looking
Yeah.
down and you're getting tossed around, and it's
Yeah.
quite small in there. With two people, they're not. It's not a huge legs touching everything, right? It's quite tight. So the ceiling's pretty close. So yeah, if you start getting bumped, your head's hitting the ceiling.
Yeah.
and
What
sort
type of plane are you training in?
So it's a Cessna 172.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not the tiniest, but it's not big at all. It's
You reckon I'd get in there, all right? Or what?
yeah. Mate, I wouldn't want to sit next to you. It'd be a bit one sided, but wouldn't get up maybe. But yeah. So it may be quite queasy to begin with because it's like looking down at your phone in the back of a car.
Yeah, I'd be gone. Like, if I'm not driving and Maxine's driving and I'm in the passenger seat, maybe it's because of her driving, but yeah, in the passenger seat, I'm no good. You got to feel, because you can physically feel the road, but when you're up,
yeah, you got no idea, and it's just it's like potholes sort of in the sky, and you just sort of, it'll be smooth, and then all of a sudden it's just bang. So it can be not disorienting, but it does make you feel a bit sort of out of it, queasy. So I mean, I take ginger tablets because
ginger. Okay.
Yeah, that helps. That helps. I do it anyway, even if I'm not sure if it's going to be a bad flight or not. I just do it in case. But yeah, so
How far are you into your course? Like,
it's been about 12 months now.
Okay.
I mean, it is a 12-month course, but the flying component depends on weather. So because we're flying visually, there's certain requirements around that, around cloud and wind and all that sort of stuff. So because of that, we're quite limited with the flying, especially this time of year. So yeah, I've probably missed a couple of months due to weather here and there. But yeah, I'm towards the end. I would say this is probably the fastest that we'll get through the flying component, which is all navigation flights from here, and then it will lead into a few check rides along the way to make sure I'm on track.
So that's just an instructor in with you to...
Yeah, so they'll get a different level of instructor. It's usually not your main instructor. They'll come through and you'll do a navigation flight, and they'll check everything. So they'll check how you navigate and how you do those flights, but they'll also check takeoffs, landings, radio calls, steep turns, stalls.
Like a driving test.
Everything. They'll cover everything you've covered in training so far, to make sure that you're still being able to perform those things. You can still do precautionary search and landings. You can still do forced landings. You can do medium turns. You can do steep turns. You can do stalls. You can climb and descend properly. You do all the things that you're supposed to do in the right order and process. Arrive and depart, make the right radio calls, those sorts of things. So we do a few of them along the way because I'm doing a commercial pilot's license, and there is a private pilot's license and a recreational pilot's license. So the way that the course is sort of built is that you cover the basis of the recreational and the private on your way to get your commercial license, because they're sort of all staggered. So commercial being that you can do any of those other things as well that the other licenses allow you to do, but it means that along the way, I have to sort of sit, not an actual flight test for that, but it's more a check to make sure that I'm still going as I should be, so that I can progress and keep going and do more solo navigation flights, so that I can keep progressing, which will then ultimately lead to being able to do my CPL flight test at the end. Yeah.
You mentioned stalls. Like, when did you first do that? How was that, the first one?
I think it's your fourth or fifth lesson.
Okay.
That you just do basic stalls, which is
so how high? What's the process? Take me through it.
So you got to recover by at least, I think it's like 3,000 feet. So we'll go on a day where we can go up sort of 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet. We'll fly up there, and then I get taught how to do controlled stalls. So we'll go up and we'll pull the power to idle, and I'll just be told to hold, let's say 4,000 feet, and I'll just be pulling back on the controls to keep me level, maintain that height. And maintaining that height means I'm bleeding airspeed. So the lower and lower the airspeed goes, the closer I get to a stall. And the engine doesn't turn off. It's not like a car stall or anything like that. It's the wings will stall on the plane, which just means the airflow's
No
so
lift.
disrupted there's no lift. So I'll just maintain that, keep bringing it back to the point where I'll have a stall warning horn go off. And I just keep going and keep going, and the plane, you'll feel the plane sink and drop.
Like free fall, you can feel that.
Yeah, like it's not that dramatic, but it feels that before you even, when you think about the lesson and you go and, you know, you're stressing about it the night before and all these things, you're going, oh shit, you know, how's this going to go? And it's so dramatic in your head, but then when you do it, it's just like,
okay,
pretty simple. You
like
know?
most things.
Yeah, so you just keep going. It drops. The nose on these is the planes are awesome. They just automatically want to lower their nose, which is good in a stall because you'll start gaining airspeed automatically.
Okay.
So yeah, you'll just do that. Nose will drop, and then you just taught to go full power and maintain the increase in airspeed, and then pull out of that. So you do that repeatedly. And that's just like a clean stall, clean configuration stall, which is just no power or idle power. They teach you how to recover, and then we move on to other stalls. So power on stalls. So they'll set up a scenario where you might be coming into land, and then you're flying a circuit pattern around the airport as you do at uncontrolled airports, and they'll pretend that you're distracted or something else is taking up, you know, your bandwidth, and as a result, you're not paying attention to your airspeed, but you're in a configuration ready for landing or close to ready for landing. So you might have 20 degrees of flaps extended out of 30 or something like that. So you've got different things going on, and you'll stall with that because you're not paying attention, and you go into a turn or you do something. So we practice that as well, an approach configuration stall. And again, it's just the aircraft will behave differently because you've got the wing surface is now almost split into two sections. You've got the normal wing surface, and then you've got your flaps, which create more lift but create more drag as well. And the airflow flows over it differently. So you might have, what you get is wing drops potentially, where one wing will drop in the stall and you have to recover and fly level and things like that from that. Because, if you get a wing drop, then if you try and use your controls that you'd normally turn left and right with to roll it back level, you actually increase the stall and make it worse. So you have to use your rudders, and it's opposite, and all these different things. So there's a few sort of things that go through your mind. Yeah, you instinctively go, oh, I'll just roll back level. But if you do that, you'll just make the roll worse. So you learn a few things with what you need to do with the rudders.
There's obviously some theory involved in doing this.
Yeah.
So how did that map out over the last sort of 12 months? So you started off with theory, or was it practical at the same time, or how did they?
Yeah, we started with about 12 weeks of flying. Didn't do a lot because of the weather. It was sort of similar time to this year. And,
so physically you were up and flying with a instructor, or you were just sitting next to the instructor and learning?
No, so we start from the beginning. So they'll take us out to the training area that we have for training, and then we'll just start lesson one and we go from there. So I probably did 12 weeks of that. We didn't get through a whole lot, but it was probably the first sort of four to six lessons. So how you fly straight, how you climb and descend, how you do your stalls.
Yeah, you're learning while you're doing it.
But you're doing it, right? They'll get you to fly, feel how things work, effects of control. So all the basics, like what happens when you push the rudder this way, and what, so you learn from scratch basically. So we go up and do that, and that's sort of all the intro lessons. So I did that sort of the first 12 weeks. Then I went into a block of theory. So I did the first 3 sort of exams, I guess. So we go and do those. We sit at ground school, have one of the instructors that are designated for that. They'll take us through that for sort of a week or 2 weeks. And then we sit a school exam and a CASA exam for our license as a part of that. And so we go through that and then come out the other side, do some more flying. So I kind of rotated through that way throughout all my sort of, I think it was 7 exams. So 14 in total if you include the school ones. Yeah.
Well, that's probably a cool way to do it. Like practical first, get to, get a feel for what you're doing instead of just going straight into a theory-based thing, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think I felt that way when I was starting, but in hindsight, I think I'd prefer to be forced to do all the exams first.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that? Just that foundation of knowledge? Or?
Well, I found it difficult to go in and out of flying a little bit, especially early on when you're learning a lot and it's all very new. And you regress very quickly if you're not flying.
Okay.
When you don't have a lot of knowledge or you're not very proficient, or you're learning something new and you get pulled out and you have to go back to it, 6 weeks later, it's quite difficult. So I would have preferred all 7 straight up, or 14, whatever, get it done. And, I don't like theory and exams.
Yeah, I was going to
study
say
and any of that sort of stuff. So I still think that that'd be the best way, because I also think it helps separate people from coming and going, sweet, I'm just going to get to fly. This is awesome. And then they get annoyed by having to do the theory component.
I've already done some flying. Let me keep going.
Yeah, and people get distracted, and they all they focus on is the flying, and they don't really think about the theory, and they don't take it seriously. So I think if they're forced to do it, then it's out the way, and all you have to do from there is fly and do all your flying lessons, which you can just keep ticking along. There's no, sure, you'll have some misses here and there, but it's a lot better than being pulled in and out. And that was my personal experience anyway.
Yeah.
I was learning how to fly the circuit around an airport and what the traffic patterns are like. And there's a lot in this sort of 4 to 6 minute period that you do from takeoff to landing in these circuits. They introduce radio calls for this first time. You're taking off and landing for the first time, how to land, how to do all the turns. So all these sort of intro lessons, they then throw at you to then build a base so that you can then fly a circuit pattern. And then you're trying to do that while then learning how to talk on the radio. And there's all these other people listening to you, and you got to maintain a height, and you got to maintain speeds, and you got to maintain a certain legitimate pattern around this airport. And that was very tricky because there was a lot of new information, but also having to put sort of separate lessons all together and fly. To then be pulled in and out of that over quite a long period of time, it did mean that I was doing a lot of repetitive lessons on...
You lost a bit of it, you felt,
landing or whatever it might be. So yeah, I would prefer just to sit and get them done, lock in. Yeah.
Give us a hey, we're coming in to land. What do you say?
No. We
Come on, Sierra Foxtrot 691. What do you say?
I mean, if you're flying at Bunbury, for example, it's all uncontrolled airspace, so it's a common traffic area frequency. So we'll be tuned in on that. I'll basically get in with the instructor. We'll taxi over to these run-up bays where we do pre-flight checks, run up the engines, test all the instruments, set everything up. And then from there, I would just, if I'm in a particular plane, I'll just say, Bunbury traffic, Sierra Yankee Papa, taxiing runway 25 for circuits, if I'm doing circuits. So then I'll taxi over and sit there, wait for a gap, and then I'll just sort of say, same thing, Bunbury traffic, Sierra Yankee Papa, entering and backtracking runway 25 for circuits. And then I'll enter and backtrack the runway because it's not right at the end. So I'll go in, backtrack, and then I'll just take off. And then we just make intermittent calls because it's more you make calls as needed in the circuit or in those uncontrolled areas. So we generally make calls on a downwind leg because all the pattern's made up of legs. So we'll make a call turning onto downwind. So it'll just be the same thing. It'll just be Bunbury traffic, Sierra Yankee Papa, turning downwind, runway 25, touch and go Bunbury. If we're doing a touch and go where we just land, take off again. So
a flyby.
Yeah. And then we'll do downwind, and then we'll just call when we're coming in on final. So we'll just say, same thing, Bunbury traffic, Sierra Yankee Papa, turning final, runway 25, touch and go Bunbury. And then we'll just keep flying. So that's kind of the basis of the calls that we'll just do and you're just doing that. But the hard part of that was, the call, you can make it. But at the same time, if you're turning final and you're saying that, it's not that complicated. But when you're trying to think about what to say, even though you've said it before, and you're not that confident about speaking on a radio, it's like, this isn't great. But you're trying to make the turn correct. You're trying to make sure that you're not losing airspeed. You're not going to stall in a turn on final. You're low to the ground. You're at sort of 500 feet.
You've got the instructor next to you.
You've got the instructor next to you. You're focusing on turning the right time so you line up on the center line. You need to take your last stage of flaps. You need to be looking at where your aim point is for landing. All these sorts of things. You need to be trimming out the aircraft so that you're not having to fight the controls as much. All these sorts of things. And adding power, decreasing power, all sorts of things to maintain your profile all the way down to your aim point of where you want to land and then take off again. while you're thinking about all these things as you're making calls. So you just got
It's just a lot.
to practice.
Right? Would you say that that's been the most challenging thing? Is just sort of mastering all that throughout the last 12 months? Or
it's all the little things, that it's easy to remember some really, really important things. It's probably the small things that make big differences overall. So at the moment, for me, with these navigation flights, I think the thing that's killing me at the moment is my ability to maintain my height correctly. So,
you just forget about it? Or?
Not that I forget about it. It's the things that I'm doing in flight will impact my height holding. So I'll be flying along at 3,000, let's say, and I look down to see where I'm at or what I need to do next or whatever it is on my flight plan. And as a result, by looking down, I might lean forward a little bit. And if I lean forward a little bit, I might, I've got my hand on the controls. I might just move it forward. And as a result, by the time I've done what I'm doing, I might lose like 100 feet or something. So I then and I'm like, oh, I've lost 100 feet. And now I've got to think about that and get back up 100 feet while I'm trying to do something else. And then I might change the power, or I might not trim out the plane properly, or whatever it might be. And it's not that I fall behind, but I just start doing all these, I worry about this thing that I just didn't need to worry about in the beginning because of something that I did that was silly. And then you lose all bandwidth for anything else. So the other day, going in Jandakot for the first time, I had that issue on the way up. We had a strong tailwind, so we were, cruising along at 130 or whatever it was knots, and we're heading up there. And it took me 15 minutes to probably get comfortable and organized and set up after we took off. To feel like you're in the flow of where you are and what you're doing. And by then, it was like, oh shit, okay, we're only probably 15 away from getting into Jandakot, and there's all these things that I need to do, but I've spent so much of my time trying to fix my height or, worry about where I'm at because I was a little bit off track or whatever it might be. So for me, it's fixing up these little things that then create problems later on because I either didn't pay attention to them enough or I spent then too much attention on it after I've realized. Instead of going, okay, I'll fix that up, I'll just bring it back a little bit and move on. So for me, it's just being able to fix some of those things, but also be able to move on from something that I've realized that I've done and not get too bogged down in, shit, I've messed that up.
Well, why are you getting bogged down? Is that because it just takes time to correct it, or are you just beating yourself up about it?
It's a bit of both. So I beat myself up about it. I'm like, like that's so simple. Why am I doing that?
I've done it again. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like I'm getting beaten from the right-hand side, right? They're super supportive. But I just get disappointed because I'm like, it's so simple. Why? What are you doing? Just sort it out. Like it's so there's that, and then it distracts me from the things that I should be doing at that moment, and I'm not moving on from fixing my height. I'm so hyper focused on fixing it that I either don't fix it very well because I'm trying to fix it 100% perfect, or I'm just missing things that I should be doing elsewhere. So it's just learning how to sort of multitask, even though we're doing that anyway. It's just for me being able to multitask and move on. Go, okay, cool. I'll just make that little change. And I'll move on to something that I can do in like the next 30 seconds. And then I'll just check back and I'll reference that. Am I trending in the direction, okay, I need to get back to 3,000 feet. Am I moving in that direction? Yes, cool, I can move on. And then I'll check it again later. Yeah, so.
Which is part of the frustration, right? It's like, if it's that simple, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. I had one of these flights a few flights ago, and it was the same deal. It was the height. It was pissing me off endlessly. And it was bumpy, it was horrible weather. It was bumpy. You can't read your map. You can't do anything. And just that alone, you're there just flying. And I just found myself like 99% of my brain was just focused on just flying. And so then I got frustrated because I couldn't do what I needed to do from a mapping point of view or a nav point of view or a fuel log or whatever it was. So I'd get frustrated about that or I'd look down and get queasy or something, I'm like, like it's not going right, I can't get it sorted. So it's those things. And that's the feedback I get anyway, is just, being able to move on from things and not get bogged down.
From your instructor. Yeah. They're good with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Generally ask how I went anyway and how I feel I went, and I'm pretty honest about that sort of stuff. And
Not too critical though, hey?
no, I say it pretty, how it is. But yeah, those are the things for me. Is just like I know what to do, I know what I need to do, I know how to do it. It's just these little things that I need to sort of work on to be able to do at the same time as other things. Yeah.
So like your background with leading teams, so like say just under 10 years of leading teams, operations management, it goes fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's gone too fast. Yeah.
The crossover between what you were doing to now what you are with learning to fly over the last 12 months, like what have you found helpful from a leadership point of view?
I mean, there's been little things. It's made it, and it's hard to pick specifically what those things are for some of it, but it's made it a lot easier to get on with everyone else for whatever reason. I don't know whether I'm a lot more open to being able to have conversations with people, whether that's just saying hello, whether that's, I'm not 100% sure, but it's made relationship building a lot easier. And I don't know, I think it's because I sometimes think about what it's like for them as instructors or people who run the place. Because you know what it's like from the other side. So you go, okay, well, how would I want these students or people that I work with to behave, and how would I want them to do things and respond or provide feedback and those sorts of things. So it's made it a lot easier to have those relationships. And, just the simple stuff, saying hello, you find a lot of the young guys don't do it. Students, I find that the hardest is probably talking with other students because everyone just walks past each other, and it's quite difficult to engage in people when they're doing that. Not that I, necessarily always want to do it, but it's helped me later on because you end up sitting next to them in a ground school for an exam, and you have to do activities with them and things like that. So it's just helped, I guess, mesh that all together so that you can work together even as students. Yeah.
Well, I imagine just thinking about like your last role, operations manager, you had 100 and something people essentially that you were responsible for. Moving into a situation like that, like where you're the one sort of driving the culture, these are the expectations when we walk past each other, something simple like that. And then moving into an environment where that doesn't happen, like it's hard to switch that off too, right? Like
you find yourself doing things that you've done forever. Like those things that just sort of become habit, and it annoys some people. You can kind of tell, they're not super interested, or they're not,
they don't want to speak to you.
No, and it's like, oh, fair enough. That's cool. They're just going about their day, and they just see themselves as they're there to learn, and we're not necessarily working together and those sorts of things. But I've found that it's helped because we all need to feed off each other in a lot of this.
Yeah,
we all have different experiences in flying, and individual experiences like on each flight that we can learn from each other on, whether it was not an incident, but something happened or they experienced this. We're able to talk about it as opposed to just everyone keeping everything to themselves and pushing forward just alone. So that's helped. But yes, it's hard to turn it off going in somewhere else, and it's been strange going in as a student after working and having people that you manage, because it's kind of just it feels like it's fully reversed. You're there, and you've got, and it's a business, and you've got instructors and teachers, and it feels like the roles are reversed. And so it's really difficult to try and, I guess, keep what you've been going with in previous workplaces, managing those things. But it's hard to then not do all of it and come across, like not cocky, but just come across the wrong way. You kind of just go in and try and be open-minded about things and see what people are like, see what the culture's like, all those sorts of things. It's hard to turn off the desire to also want to do and change things, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
In what way? Like,
just simple things around how things are displayed, written, presented.
Yeah, organized.
Yeah. Whether that's just paperwork or whether that's safety stuff. Yeah, anything. It's there's always sort of something where you're like, you know, it'd be not that it's bad. It's just like, oh, it'd be cool to, like, none of it's bad at all. It's just, it'd be cool to be involved in being able to make that a little bit better.
Again, probably I imagine that switching off. So you've been in an environment where, you know, continuous improvement is a massive thing, and you're always looking on building on past performances, and then you go into a situation where there's I don't know, something photocopied 34 times and looks average and could be better, and you're going like, hey, we can do this electronically, or, you know, different things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the sorts of things, and they're all small things, and it's not a big deal, but it's more the point. It's hard to not even come across that thought, because you're just used to it, and even though it's not your place, so it's that tricky sort of that point where you're
coming across as a know-it-all, you know, like, what's the point? I'm there.
And it's all good, but there's been times where I've done my own thing around that stuff, and it's been positive, so that's okay. Not that I've wanted to change anything, but it's more just, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, can I do it this way? And it's not overly different. It's just how it works for me, or how it's presented to me. I'm the one using the information in the end to make decisions around flying or not flying. So if it benefits me, that's good. I've shared it with other students. They've found it useful here and there for when they've struggled with some of that information. But yeah, that sort of, it's hard to turn it off.
I could imagine the other thing would be around, you know, used to helping improve others, right? And then you're in this situation where you got younger people, naturally, you know, being a little bit older and a little bit more miles on the clock, you'd be like, well, okay, well, there's an opportunity to help. Well, hey, it's not my place to do that, you know? And where do you draw the line?
Yeah, and I think, especially when students talk about instructors, you know,
okay, so
how
just
they feel.
Negative approach, or?
Yeah, that's where I find I probably do the most sort of engaging, I think, with them, is probably around that discussion when they're frustrated with how things are going, or who they're with, or an instructor's approach, or whatever it might be. I think is probably just those conversations around how to deal with that themselves, and how to approach that if they need to. It's probably the stuff that I do the most with the students, I think.
Yeah.
And not all of them being younger or anything. It's just some of them are older than me or same age, but they've just not had the exposure. So it's more just someone else to talk to about it, and they can take the advice or not. It doesn't really bother me. But, you know, because in the end, all the instructors are great, and they all have really nice approaches. And a lot of the time it's as a result of probably us, the students, that piss them off, don't pay attention, don't spend the time studying, don't spend the time thinking about what my next flight is going to be and what I need to do from the last flight to improve, what I need to focus on, things like that. So there are times that you know, I think there's frustrations around that, but it's never anything horrible. So I think it's just making people, or help them realize that it's not as a result of who they are. It's probably just a result of what we're doing, and what we can do to help with those things, you know, to be prepared and to be organized and to be positive about what we're doing, because it is pretty good fun. So
that's cool. That adjustment from going from, you know, leading teams to what you're doing now, is that hard? Or did you struggle with that?
No.
It was nice to get a break.
It was nice to have a break, I think. It was nice to be able to, have the roles reversed a little bit, I think. Because sometimes, you know, I probably felt that anyway while working. It was like, oh, how nice would it be just to come in and do what I need to do and go home, and there's no lingering.
Not have the weight,
The weight, but also there's no lingering task. There's no lingering thought or feelings about things, or stress, or any of those sorts of things that are associated with it, right? That you take home. So that's been probably the best thing, I think. There's none of that.
Clear mind, focus on, hey, I want to
That's
be
my
a pilot.
focus. That's it, you know, and each individual lesson or each exam or each whatever it might be is, that's cool. That's what I need to worry about and focus on and get better at. And I don't need to think wider than that at this stage. You know, I've worked hard at having good relationships with the instructors and the students who are willing to also do the same. And And then beyond that, it's, my own focus and how well I want to do in the exam, or how well I want to do in the flights.
Be refreshing, yeah.
Yeah, it's as selfish as it might sound, it's nice to just think about me in those moments and be able to do it.
Yeah,
And then,
it's your life.
and then, outside of that, it's great, chatting to everyone and talking about how they're going and what they're up to and how we find things, that's all great. That's awesome. But it's nice not having to then be responsible for that either.
What do you miss? Is there anything that you miss?
I do miss the people, like I miss
having a team as such.
Yeah.
Being a part of that.
I miss having lots of people around, and, you got a lot of relationships and people you talk to, and seeing people improve and supporting people and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's probably why those things have continued where I can with students that I get along with, even if it's not necessarily supporting, but, just chatting and I enjoy having them around and talking to them. But yeah, I do miss the sort of a large team and all the different people you get with that, good and bad. It's all good fun. So yeah, so I probably miss that the most.
Yeah, the crossover operationally, you made me think about it when you were talking about all the preparation you do for a flight.
Yep.
And you're essentially 3 hours to do a 2-hour flight?
Yeah, it's probably 3 hours to do about 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so operationally, like there's some probably crossover there, like with preparation prior to, and that preparation will dictate how you go, during a busy period. Like, have you found lots of sort of, I suppose, synergies and examples between what you're doing there? And
yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's like, because I've been so solely focused, I guess I haven't really thought about a lot of the links unless we're chatting, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we spoke about it earlier. I think, it's a huge link there around, well, I'm planning for what I need to do, what I think might happen, and then also some worst case scenarios every time I go. So I think there's a huge link between that and what you would do operationally, or in, leadership around how can I plan best for what I know is going to happen, and then, hey, what's worst case, and what are all the options that I need to think about here to be able to perform the best that I can. And then if shit hits the fan, what's my plan?
Yeah, what do I do?
What do I do? Yeah. So, yeah.
If you were to imagine getting up in the air without doing your 3 hours, like what would that look like? You just wouldn't be able to do it, would you?
No, you wouldn't get very far. No, you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know where you're going. If something went wrong, you'd have no plan. You'd have no mental picture of what you need to do, where you need to go, who you need to talk to, where can I go, how far can I go, all these different things. It's a huge risk if you don't do it. It's super important that we plan for those things, so that, like I said, we've got that image in our head of when we go up. Okay, if this happens, then it's just not even a thought. We go and do those things. It's just there, ready to go.
Thinking about busy periods, it's just like, well, if you're planning and you know what's going to happen, like this is our forecast, this is what we're expecting, this is the resources that we've got allocated just from a labor management point of view, right? And then, okay, worst case scenario, if the volumes are bigger than what they are or less than what they are, and what are we going to do with each of those? What triggers that? Who does that? What do we do there?
Yeah, there's so many.
All that sort of stuff from an operational point of view. If you don't have those, it becomes that emotionally driven,
it's just all reactive stuff, right? It's just as soon as, this is happening, so let's do this, when you probably should do something else. It makes more sense.
Yeah.
But you don't know, you've not thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's so you spent 12 years in the one business essentially.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you started doing some part-time work at high school?
Yeah. Yeah. So started year 11, I think it was. Yep.
Yeah. And then worked your way from doing that into full-time work, and then up through the leadership ranks and spent.
Yeah, so I think it was casual part-time all the way through till sort of end of year 12, and then went full-time from there. Yeah.
That sort of journey from going from that to where you ended up, where you're, in a 12-year period, starting as a part-timer who's, going to school and all that sort of stuff and studying, to being responsible for quite a big operation and a large amount of people. Like, it's a big trajectory. Like, how did you find that?
A lot of it felt fairly natural, in terms of progression and time and things like that. Nothing ever felt like a drag, but I found it difficult as well. You know, I'm not a hugely social guy, or super, comfortable around lots of people and eyes on you and things like that. And public speaking, hate it to death. Probably the worst thing. So, and obviously all those things are associated with being in leadership and those roles. So, that was probably the toughest was I guess moving into where those expectations became part of the role. So it was, that was probably the trickiest thing for me was moving into that and feeling like I needed to do those things when I didn't necessarily always have to. And so that's probably what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. With I suppose, an introverted personality, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that, and you hear a little bit of a stigma around, okay, well, does that make a good leader because they don't want to do public speaking? And it's sort of like, with having some experience with you, it's like, okay, well, yeah, you don't like it, but you'll do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing, right? Is that, well, yeah, I don't necessarily like doing it. I know I have to, and I'll do it well, and I'm able to do it. Will I seek that out and want to do it all the time? Like, I see that as a real positive from a leadership point of view. If you're really keen to be up in front of people all the time, like, you're going to forget the individuals within that team. And I would imagine the amount of time you spent working with people one-on-one instead of, being up in front and wanting to sort of talk to people as a whole, you would build those relationships a lot quicker because your focus is more on the individual than it is just getting up in front of everyone.
Yeah, I think there was a time and place for it, sure. But for the most part, I felt as if I had more of an impact with either the other leaders who were then leading the teams realistically on the floor or out with people, not me, getting up there and telling them good or bad what's going on. I felt that it meant more coming from the people they worked with directly and that they had a better relationship with than I would for each of their teams. But it was more important to work with all of them individually and build relationships that way and get effect out of that than getting up there and being, and asking, say, this is what I need and this is what I want. You could achieve the same thing and better through dealing with people personally and building respect and through that, some people, they'd do anything not for you, but just because they felt that was the right thing to do.
They're more likely
to do it. It's not about, can you do this for me and, all those sorts of things. It was people did things and worked hard because they felt that it was the right thing to do and that they were working with people that they liked and enjoyed working with and that they were a team and they wanted to do well as a group. And that wasn't because I stood up in front of them and asked them to do it. So,
yeah. Well, it's sort of funny, like that stigma, and I've always found, and it's not to say that extroverts or introverts are, what's better than the other. It's not.
That's just what I'm not saying that that's the only way either.
No.
Just for me in that role,
this is what
or
you
in
found.
A leadership role, that's the way that it worked best for me. And people responded to that in that way as well. So I think,
So your approach was probably more, okay, you might have a large operation with 100+ people. Well, you're not going to be gathering everyone around and saying, hey, this is what I need. You will be working with your 6 or 7 direct reports, working closely with them, having them,
Well, they're out with that group every day, all day.
All the time. Yeah.
And they, as much as I can go out there and try and have a relationship with 100 people, it's not going to be as good as what those 6 or 7 have with their team. Yeah. So if there's things to be said, they can have those conversations if they need to.
And then from a social point of view and just getting to know and build relationships, you probably found yourself focusing more with, the team members that aren't your direct reports.
That's right.
And then a work sense, right? Which
goes
a long way.
It's just saying hello, how are they going? How was your weekend? Understanding who they are and what they're up to in their own lives if they want to talk about it and get out there and work with them when you have the opportunity and just, it's not about, hey, look, I'm out here working or, hey, I want to get to know you for whatever reason. It's just building that relationship so that they're able to feel like I care enough that if there's anything, they can come to you, but also just that, they're able to do their job around people that they're happy to work with. So
And you found that just worked well. That was your thing.
that was my thing.
That was your main attribute.
That was the best way for me to get across to people, was to do it that way, was to build relationships with everyone, but entrust that your own reports are able to back you up and be able to work with their own teams and support that message. And
so you've given them that responsibility, that autonomy to be able to do that. That worked best for you because that's what you wanted to do, or does that work best for you because you got the results from that approach?
I mean, it's probably because I wanted to do that. Like, yes, I got the best results from that, but I enjoyed doing those things. It was nice to be able to give people or other reports responsibility and autonomy and see how they would go with those things and support them through that, and see how their teams responded to that. Their manager being with them and working with them closely and supporting their teams without seeing their manager sitting around them and watching what they're doing. That it built a lot of confidence, I think, in people's ability to be able to do their jobs. And as a result, they were comfortable in changing things, bringing up new ideas, or, they felt that they were supported if they wanted to implement things. So I wanted to do it because it was not easier, but it was what I was comfortable doing. Mm-hmm. But it also produced results. So if I was doing that and it wasn't getting anywhere, well, then I'd have to change my approach. But
that's my point.
It was getting both. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the starting point, but it gets you to the point where you're actually achieving the things you need to achieve. It's working.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't have to be up on my soapbox sprouting about what we need to do.
And I wouldn't want to hear me up there anyway. Yeah. But, even now, I don't want to. A lot of the time, I don't like those style setups where you have people standing up telling everyone what needs to be done.
A theatre style.
No, it's what I'm used to not having, so I don't obviously like it. But yeah, I wouldn't want to see me. If I looked at the other way, I don't necessarily think I'd want to see me standing up there telling, everyone this is what the go is and I want this done. It's not useful for me, I don't think.
Yeah, those constant, I suppose, promotions and movements within those 12-year period. You were in your late teens into your 20s and so forth. Like, that felt good. Like, you liked that challenge of, was there what kept you moving, right? Like,
it was
what
probably
was that?
There was never necessarily a desire to do, I guess, what I ended up doing, or the roles that were through that period. But I enjoyed the challenge of something new, something different, and being able to do different roles. It was interesting. It kept things fresh. I had no other plan anyway, so it wasn't like I wasn't studying, I wasn't doing anything in the background, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But I enjoyed doing this, and I enjoyed the people that I worked with, which was the main thing. I really enjoyed who I worked with, so it didn't really matter necessarily what I was doing. So I was happy to give anything a shot, and
the environment was good, but you had that constant challenge, and
it wasn't monotonous. There was something, the days were different. If through the same role, there was, you worked with lots of different people. It was interesting and fresh. Yeah. So
outside of those sort of one-on-one connections and things, what else from a leadership point of view did you find that really worked for you?
Tracking, probably performance-based, sort of organizing of things was something that I really enjoyed as a part of that as well. Being able to, work out efficiencies and be able to plan for those and track those and provide feedback for those was something I really enjoyed. Building reports or,
a bit of an analytical brain.
Yeah, and anything analytical was something that I enjoyed. So yeah, it was probably a big part of it was being able to look at that, build those things, expand on that, and be able to sort of dive into a lot of that information, and useful or not, it was still interesting to me
to understand,
to be able to then, for me, communicate better to people and be able to show people and other leaders, hey, this is how we're going, this is what this looks like, this is where we need to improve. And it helped visualize for some people what that looked like. and where we could go and those sorts of things. So yeah, I really enjoyed that side of things as well. Yeah.
A bit of a crossover there again, like with your planning for flying, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a bit going on there.
Yeah. It's all quite similar. Yeah. I mean, we talked about, I don't necessarily like getting up in front of lots of people. Well, I get to sit in a plane with one person and talk to people I don't see, right? So, that there's a good part of that. I'm not, not in an office or anything, but or not up in front of people. But yes, big time. Like the planning and the organising and the information and how it's all collated and presented. Yeah, is I enjoy doing it. As much as there's a lot to do and cross reference and check and make sure that you've got correct. I enjoy that side of things. So it's not a drag whatsoever. Yeah, I enjoy all of it.
Plans for after you graduate? Like, have you got any idea of what you want to do as such? Or?
No, I get asked all the time. Everyone I've asked at school seems to have an idea. I don't. A little bit tricky because a lot of people went into this flight training with an outcome probably before they went in, as opposed to me. I just wanted to fly. So for me, that was it. I just want to fly. So
the outcome for others is that I want to be a pilot. And
yeah, a lot of it is I want to fly for the airlines. I want to, which is pretty much 95% of people. They want to get in and fly for an airline. So that's their focus, which is great. They've got an end goal and they can work towards it. For me, it's a little bit trickier. I don't really, I don't have a goal necessarily of a career, but it'll just depend on what I can find post, getting the license, something that might be a bit more local. And it's
I don't know how you find that sort of stuff, but I find that now a little bit exciting, like with those sorts of situations, like, I don't know, but I'm just going to put myself into this situation and then see what happens, see where it takes me, like the unknown of that. Like you can get so caught up with, I'm going to do this and I want to be here and I want to do that. And don't get me wrong, like the planning and goals, like I'm all for that. But there's an element there of, well, I don't know. I might have these goals of what I want to do, but I don't know exactly how that's going to come about and what the path to that is.
Yeah, it's like, it's probably the hardest thing for me because everything was so planned and organized, and whether that was work or just at home, and going from that to no plan is a big change.
Well, talk to me about that, Mitch. Like you went from, important role and you had some status and you knew what you were doing, right? Like you went from that and then you've gone to a point where you're essentially studying full time to be a pilot.
Yeah.
You've got a wife, you've got a young child, like you had a mortgage, just that process of getting to the point of understanding what I want to do. And then, okay, logistically, how can we make this work? And then can we make this work? Do we want to make this work both for yourself and your wife, Mika?
Yeah. Well, it was hard to know what it was going to look like initially, how it sort of almost felt impossible because there were so many aspects of that, have the house, working full time. How can we make this work? Mika can't work. She's at home with Harvey, all these things. How do we make this work? But I think that was before I had any idea of whether I was wanting to pursue something else. So I didn't necessarily start thinking, okay, I want to go and start flying. I just thought, well, I'd like a change. I want to do something different. I don't want to do this anymore. So what's that going to be? I initially started looking for similar roles and other full-time jobs and all those sorts of things. And through that process found out, well, I don't actually want to do this either, which was good. You got to go through it to be able to find out. So I thought, no, that's not what I want to do either. So I thought, okay, well, if I'm not doing this, what would I do? And it popped into my head and I thought, okay. And I hadn't thought about flying for a long time. I thought about it probably, 10 years ago now. Was the last time I'd sort of thought about pursuing that. And I thought at the time, nah, probably not. It seems too difficult.
Okay. Difficult from
To get into.
To get into.
So
yeah.
the process of starting, getting into it, cost, all those things. It was
But
just like,
even-
oh, it's a bit too much. And then I kind of just let it fade away and I didn't think about it, for another 10 years. So I thought, oh yeah, okay. And it had come into my mind here and there, but nothing serious. So I thought, okay, well, I'll have a look into this and see how that would go, or what that would look like. And I started looking into it and I thought, ooh, okay, this is tricky. How do I do this without anyone working? Well, we can't. We're up in Parkerville, so how can I do this in Perth? Well, I can train in Jandakot. Looked at the cost of training in Jandakot, and it's probably like 120 grand. You go, okay, well, I've got to pay for that and to pay for a mortgage and everything else. And you go, I don't know how that's going to look. And it just started to feel a bit overwhelming and a little bit defeated around that. And you go, how can I do this without making too much of a change to what you've already got? I guess initially that's how you'd start. You think, I need to be able to do this without changing everything because that's way too scary. So then I realized that that's probably not the way I could do it. So I looked at where else you could train. I found Bunbury. You could train down there. It was a little bit cheaper because have landing fees and things associated with flying in and out of Jandakot. So looked at that and I thought, okay, well, if I was to do it in Bunbury, how could I make it work? And what would that look like? Worst case, I go on worst case, but what would that look like? So parents live in Bridgetown. So there was an option to commute from there potentially. Hadn't spoken to them about living with them again, but there were those options, right? You go, okay, well they're an hour and 15 away from Bunbury. There's an option there that's closer. I can get away with not having to work, sell the house, move away,
go all in,
and there's nothing that probably focuses you more than going all in. Because you've got nothing else to do and it's all on the line, right? So I thought, that's tough because, like I said, we were comfortable where we were. We had friends nearby. They've got young kids. It was all nice.
Starting a family.
Yeah. Harvey was 10 months old at the time, and so you go, do you want to do that? Do you want to take Mika away from friends and family in Perth and just for what you want to do? So yeah, you think about those things and it gets a bit tricky. So yeah.
And you obviously made the decision to give it a shot.
Well, I think we came down to mum and dad's just for a weekend away, and we spoke about it then. And I said, look, this is what we can do because I don't know what else I would do, but if I was to do something, this is what it would be, and this is how we could do it. But this is what it means, So we spoke about that, and she was really supportive and didn't really flinch, just said, yeah, go for it, sort of thing. So, which was great because there was no doubt. No one was, second guessing you or holding you back. So no, she was great. And then, so then I think from there we just made the decision to, organise selling the house. So that's one thing. Selling that, moving down to Bridgetown. Leaving work and, signing up for school and moving everything down into storage and getting set up and then.
When those concrete things were happening, like selling a house and moving and all that sort of stuff, were you doubting yourself? Like, is this what I really want to do?
Yeah, 100%. Because when I thought about it before, I didn't do it. So it's like, well, if I didn't do it then, why am I doing it now? It's been 10 years, if I really wanted to do it. It was something I was 100% on. Why didn't I do it then, So yeah, all those things pop into your head and you think about, taking people away from friends and family. And yeah, it's great being with your parents and it's been awesome. But, you feel like you're burdening someone else and you're burdening Mika and you're taking Harvey away from other little kids and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, you're selling a house and you go, you've worked for so long to be able to do these things. And then it's like, you're just starting from zero again is what it feels like. And you are really, no one has a job. you don't have a place to live other than that's yours, you know.
Yeah.
And you're doing nothing other than this thing that you're going all in on. So those things were tough.
Yeah.
And so you do doubt yourself during that process. And, you know, whether I spoke about it a lot, I can't remember, but
It was on your mind.
It was on my mind. But yeah. So.
Yeah. And I suppose like competition for roles once you do graduate and things like that, is that pretty tight? Like, is that
I mean, I know that there's a shortage of pilots,
okay,
but I don't know what, you know, where that shortage is, what, you know, I'm sure it's probably a shortage of pilots with experience and hours, not me necessarily going into the market. So look, like I said, it'll just be probably something that I can do locally. I think I'm talking, you know, Perth. I think Perth or Southwest or something that
figure it out as you
that I can figure out as I go. Something that keeps me local, keeps Mika and Harvey, you know, close, and close to friends and family and things like that. Because that's been, you know, it's been important. You know, we come to Perth a little bit, and we miss friends up here, and seeing Harvey play with other kids and stuff that we have that are our friends and all that is, it's nice to see, but you know, you kind of go, oh, you know,
it's not a forever thing. Yeah,
no, it's not a forever thing, but you know, it's what you think about. And so I still feel funny about doing it sometimes, about having, even though you're supported in doing it, being the reason that it's happening is sort of like, oh, you know, you kind of get a bit funny about it. But yeah, I guess it just means that you can, like I said before, go all in, and it's all you're doing, it's all you're focusing on, and you can just knuckle down and lock in and get it done, I guess, is sort of, and it's been probably the best thing, especially around the study, you know, because I hate it. And it's not a strong suit of mine to be able to sit down and study.
So coming out of school, you knew you didn't want to go to university.
No, I didn't sit my exams. I sat my school exams and graduated, but I didn't sit my ATAR exams because I thought, well, I'm not going to go to university in the next few years, so I don't need an ATAR.
You didn't really know what you wanted to do? Like,
no, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Continued on in your part-time job that you were doing just to get some pocket money.
Yeah.
And it just led to the point where you got to.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kind of ticked along for all those years. And then, so it's nice and refreshing to have that focus now where you go, well, I'm all in and I'm really enjoying it and it's interesting. So it's a lot easier to study. It's still hard for me because, you know, I look around the room and I go, you know, I've got 10 years on these guys. And I don't feel that old, you know, like I'm not old at all. But, you know, they're all 18 or 20. And I'm sitting there at 30 and it's weird. They know what they want to do afterwards. They know what they're aiming for.
Well, they say they do.
Yeah, they say they do, right? Who knows? But they've got a direction that they're going. I don't necessarily in terms of a role afterwards. They're all pretty switched on still from school, you know, whether it's maths and all this sort of stuff that they're able to just go in and keep rolling.
And used to the study environment, whereas, like what you've been doing, you know, working, earning, you know, making decisions, having a say in stuff like these, you know, these.
It's tough. Like it felt strange being in that environment and not. I didn't, you know, I felt sort of a bit funny about it, not that confident. I'm going, oh, these guys remember how to do this, you know, from school, and I'm having to relearn it all and start again with a lot of that study. So, yeah, that was tough, but it was good. Like it was a good slog. I'd lock in the donger and go from there. So, it was good fun.
Yeah. So, would it be fair to say that, you know, first time in your life, you got a real clear understanding of what you want to do? Like,
yeah, for right now, like don't know what the end result will look like, but what's in front of me, 100%. Yeah.
You know, you want to be a pilot.
Yeah. I don't want to fly. I don't want to be a pilot. So being able to have that has been beneficial. Yeah.
And go from a point where you put it all on the line and then get there and you actually start enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like, could you think about anything worse?
I know.
Could you imagine that?
And I do enjoy it, but there's times where we were talking about earlier, you know, where there's things that I need to focus on and improve, and I get a bit down and, you know, and sort of hard on myself about those things. In those moments or after those flights, you know, driving home, sitting there for an hour or so, stewing in your own thoughts, I go, oh man, like, am I good enough to do this? And then you go, oh my God, all these things that I've done to get here. And then you sort of second guessing yourself, and, all that sort of stuff is tough, because I know I do enjoy it and I know I want to do it. But in those moments, it's hard to sort of see it at the end when you're in it and feeling a little bit sort of down about stuff. So, but yeah, that still comes through my mind, but it's not because I don't want to do it. It's or don't enjoy it. It's just like, am I good enough to do it? In parts. Yeah. The flying component, like all the exams are done. That's no problem. But, and I know I can do it in the flight environment, but yeah, it's just in those moments of frustration and sort of you're hard on yourself. It's a bit sort of tough, but
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, you lighten up on yourself.
I know, but I like to do things properly, and it's part of just learning that I'm not. It's still like it's new. I've only flown, I don't know, 50 times or something. I know it sounds like a lot, but I've done 50 flights or something, and I'm probably halfway through, right? So I've got a long way to go. I've only done 5 hours of solo. Heaps to go. So yeah, I do need to be less hard on myself, but at the same time, I almost need it a little bit so that I force myself to work on what I need to work on for the next flight.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting topic, right? I'm tough on myself, right? Just as a person in general, right? Just talking about someone. I'm tough on myself, like what you're talking about. When does that flip over to being a negative thing? So, for instance, I have high standards. I have high expectations of myself. I want to be a high performer. I'm going to be critical of myself, right? Because what that does is I can look at my performance unemotionally and pick out the things that need to improve, and I can work on those. And that's proven to me over time. Over a 12-year period, I've gone from a pimply school kid in a part-time casual role to one of the most senior spots, well, probably the most senior spot in a state operation for a large business, right?
Yep.
You did that, all right, in a short period of time. So you're able to achieve things because you've got high standards. But when do you get to the point where those high standards actually degrade your performance? And that balance between, hey, I'm critical, I'm my own harshest critic, to my mindset becoming negative, and that hinders my performance, and that balance, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's that balance between those thoughts and how you think about your performance and how you think you are. When that, I think, starts to affect your enjoyment on with what you're doing, I think that's where potentially your performance can go the other way if it's not, kept in check almost. Because like I was saying, I'm pretty hard on myself about those things, which makes me feel bad. And as a result, I don't enjoy doing it. There's been flights there where I've just hated it. And it's not because overall I don't enjoy it. It's just I'm so hard on myself that I just don't enjoy it. And then as a result, my performance is worse because in that flight, as an example, because I'm so focused on the things I'm doing wrong that I can't move on and I can't progress and I can't find the next thing, to do that. Yeah, everything just goes out the window.
Well, you answered it perfectly earlier, right? Like you mentioned around, I hit the controls and I go, and how can I stuff this up and right? And it's not the issue that it happens, it's what happens next, which is the important thing. And you gave two perfect responses. Is that one, on the negative side, is just like, I've got no bandwidth anymore. I'm thinking about this. I've got to fix it. I've come behind. This is shit. 9 out of 10 things worked fine. There was one thing, but I'm focused on the one thing instead of the 9 out of 10. I'm 90%. I've done well. And then you mentioned about, okay, well, what I really need to do is acknowledge it. Yeah, it happened. It's not an issue that it happened. What happens next is the key thing. And I just need to, focus, reset this, go, done.
Yeah, I just need to move on.
It's that quick. Yeah.
I just need to look at it and go, okay, it's happened. What do you need to do? Move on. Yeah. That's the mindset, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. I'm working on that. But
but we all struggle with that.
It's a hard thing to do because when you're so focused on doing things correctly and you're critical on how you do things yourself, it becomes hard to move on from that without having a result. Okay, I've done this. I'm going to do this to try and fix it while I'm doing something else. It's not resolved yet. So you're going, well, it's not fixed, so it becomes this sort of snowball thing of trying to just go, no, I'm working on that. I'm just going to move on and do something else.
I'm going to park that. Yeah.
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 Well, I've done something about it. I haven't fixed it. I'm working on it. It's improving, and I'm going to do something else while that's happening.
Because it's like that we do this weird thing is like we go from, okay, something bad happened and, oh shit, I'm critical of the fact that that's happened.
Yeah.
And then I waste time being critical on it. And then I reflect on that and then I'm critical of myself twice over because I've done the same thing again that I wish I didn't do. It's just weird, right?
Yeah, it is. I had to talk to myself big time. One of the drives in last week, or I think it was I think it was coming in for the first flight that I'd done in a long time because of the weather and so forth. I hadn't flown for 6 or 7 weeks, and so I was going into one of these long nav flights, and I was thinking, I've only done a couple ever. So I was nervous about it anyway, not because of the flight. I just nervous because I want to do well. Right? I want to move on to the next one, and I want to do well. So I was driving in, and I was nervous, and I had to talk to myself because it was about being critical almost. It was like, no, hang on, why are you nervous about this? You're not nervous about flying, you just don't want to mess up. But it's okay. It doesn't matter if you do.
And who says you are?
Yeah, and that's it. It's like, is it because I'm saying that I'm messing up, or is it how I feel about how the flight went, or is it actual feedback that I got from my instructor? All those things. But I've already preempted everything before I've even got to the airport, right? So
and because you're preempting it, it's probably going to happen too.
It's all these things, and I was like, nah, just chill.
Snap out of it.
Why are you so stressed about this? It's another flight. It'll be fine. If you mess up something, you've got it there to work on for next time. It's not like it's your test flight. Relax. So I found doing that sort of helped a little bit, and it's been better since. But it's just being able to come to that realization of look, it's fine. You are a student pilot. It's fine. You're here to learn and make mistakes.
Well, you bet. And it's just like you're gonna keep experiencing it because it's like, okay, well, the stakes are high where you're at the moment. If I stuff something up, I'll fall out of the fucking sky. It's a bit going on. Whereas if I'm leading a team, running an operation, I can do this with my eyes closed. If something like this pops up, you might even just go to that point where it's, we didn't do well here. And then you just move forward. Okay, well, what's next? But because the stakes are high, it's new, there's a bit on the line, a risk matrix is high, it's more impact.
You get a little bit stressed about it.
So when you get to another point where you, I don't know, commercial pilot or whatever it may be, or whatever it is in life, and it's a higher stakes thing, it's something new, you're going to get to that point again. But it's like, I've found really helpful with that. It's just like, okay, it's not an issue that I get there. It's what happens next. What do I do next?
Yeah.
Do I move forward or do I not? But it's a common thing.
And you got to go through it to be able to work out, okay, well, how am I going to deal with these things? And, whether it's this or previous work, you have those same thoughts that go through your head around, am I good enough? Can I do these things? Will I make mistakes? What do I look like? What do I sound like? All these things, everyone thinks about this stuff for the most part. And it's just how you then try and move on from those things and not let it bother you, but also let it bother you enough that you care, right? Because if you don't care about it, then you look like a cockhead, really.
Yeah, well, and this is the balance.
And it's the balance between that and caring enough that you'll be able to do what you need to do and also, not eat yourself up.
Where's the tipping point?
Where's the tipping point for that? And it's hard to find sometimes.
Yeah. No, for sure. So that progression from, out of school and finishing up, going into full-time work, and then you mentioned around, the progression through the different roles, early motivators for that. What were the key things for you that kept you jumping through the roles? You were obviously learning some stuff, but
I was learning new things. I was working with different people. I was new challenges and more money. I mean, when you're young, those are all it's exciting, it's different, it's interesting, and you get to have a crack and you earn a bit extra each time, and those things are important when you're younger. And that kept things ticking along and kept me engaged in things. And then obviously, if I enjoyed who I worked with, then that was awesome. So those things are really good.
Did that change much over the years? Like the further you went through and the higher the positions you're in, did you find, and the older that you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't want to change as much or move around as much as I got older. But yeah, the money is still there, in the background, but it was not the most important thing. I think towards the end of all of that, I think there was a lot of more about how I can spend more time at home. Not necessarily like more hours or anything, but how can I be a bit more available mentally?
Your priorities changed a little bit. Yeah.
Taking less home, trying to be a bit more switched off, focusing on other things that are just not work related. Not feeling like you need to take things home was tough because, and that was a big driver in just trying to step away from that. But as time went on towards the end, that just got worse and worse and worse. It wasn't really possible to switch off. I was, until going to sleep, I was thinking about everything. Like as soon as I woke up, I was like crook. I was just,
not feeling it. And that was
just felt physically sick in the morning. It was just, I didn't enjoy it.
So you've said a few times just around the people you work with and the environment, and I'm learning things. I like a bit of analytical stuff. I like working with people. I can see that I'm providing some value, all this sort of stuff, and I get paid to do it. And I like the people I'm working with. That changes.
And I had the ability to be able to do that in the way that I wanted to do it, and the way that I knew people that I worked with enjoyed, working together in that way. When that changed, then that was different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a change in direction from
change of direction, change of approach to how to deal with things, how I needed to deal with things, how I needed to behave, or present, probably a better word. Those things changed a lot, which then affects how people who have seen me do things a certain way for a long time, how they then view that change, and they go, oh, okay, what's he up to?
It's not normal.
Is he changed? Like, has he changed? What's going on here? And you're in a very difficult position of doing what you're told to do from people who you report to, and a change happens and others see it, but you can't necessarily just go out there and say, I've been told to do this, and present this way, and I don't really mean it. Like what position does that put you in? You want to be open and honest, which you always have been, but then if you do, it's to the detriment of the people that you report to, and if that gets back, it's super difficult. Yeah.
So you've gone from an environment where you've had autonomy, you've had some purpose and understanding and responsibility of what you needed to do, to essentially being dictated to when you're in your most senior position over that 12-year period.
Correct. To that pretty much all being taken away, and being told how to do everything, and what to communicate and how to communicate it, and what the outcomes will be, everything. So tough spot to be in, when you don't believe in any of it, and the people you work with don't believe in any of it, and they can see straight through it, but you just kind of have to tick along with it.
Yeah. So that was essentially, I suppose, the kicker for you to look, to do something else.
Yeah. Well, it those things made it clear to me that there was no reason for me to necessarily be there, because if they just wanted things done a certain way and to be said a certain way and presented in all those things, then what was my purpose? What am I there for other than a mouthpiece, essentially?
Yeah.
On the floor. So that became apparent, and then you go, okay, well, I don't really want to do that anymore. You just become a loudspeaker for people in an office. So you don't really want to do that. It's not enjoyable. you don't enjoy who you're working with anymore. Not the same people you work with, you enjoy working with them.
Just the environment has changed.
But they then feel it, and then they, change, and you change, and you're all just trying to get through, and it's not a happy place. So the reason that you're there and the people you work with is no longer there, and there's no challenge, there's no autonomy, there's no enjoyment. So you go.
It's funny that like when you're younger, you sort of, you don't think about environment that you're in. You don't think about, I suppose the autonomy and the purpose that you can have and the responsibility and trust that people will have in you, in that way.
And what that means to you and them, it doesn't really cross your mind in how those things make you feel and how important they are.
You sort of take them for granted, like particularly if you've had them and you think that's the norm, right? And then you get to a point where the complete opposite changes, right? Like you've got a new line manager or there's a new direction and it's just not aligned, right? And businesses, I suppose, have their rights to do that, but it's hard to see when, a culture that worked to then probably not working by the sounds of it was, were hard to sort of take. And then you expected to be the person that pushes that to everyone. Like,
that's the hard part is not being involved in that and then being pushed into it and having to push everyone else along with it is tough when you don't mean a word of it, and that's the hard part.
Yeah. You lose enjoyment and then you've got to pass it on and force others to lose their enjoyment too with the approach.
You just become this person that makes everyone else depressed, and ruins their day, or it's not a nice spot to be in because you're just being this sort of negative space for everyone else.
Yeah. Was that I suppose you look at where you're at now and what you're doing and, you found something that you're really engaged in, talking to you about that, like you can see, like I can see over the last sort of 2 minutes just how, I can feel that. You can feel the environment.
It's a bit sad, but look.
It's like I said, it's like we don't think about it much. And just like simple things of, okay, well, having some trust in people, having people treat people well, building relationships, actually, not being dictated to, giving them some purpose and understanding the bigger picture and things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's just
like it works.
Yeah, being reasonable and respectful, right? Like it's not like what was happening or what I was doing was anything extraordinary. It was just kind of what you would see as normal behavior. I think, people treating each other with respect, being open and honest, and treating people like adults and not children.
Yeah.
That can take it when they need to, but have the ability to put their head down and do what they need to do or improve or whatever it might be. To go from that to treating everyone like kids and being treated like one is tough.
Tough to take. Yep. Yeah. But, I suppose the positives, right?
Well, but look, the positive, 100% is where it's led me now.
Yeah. And I think I've mentioned a couple of times on these things, like there's been some people within my life that are, I used to call fuck you people, is that things would happen and I'd be like, fuck you, like you took something or you changed something or you wrecked something. I see them as thank you people now. And it's like, from your point of view, it's just like, okay, well, that situation, thank you. It's pushed me into this situation where I'm actually finding something that is a passion and I'm enjoying it. I love it. And I want to see where it takes me, and if that didn't change, well, what would you be doing?
I mean, you'd probably still be doing it potentially. I mean, if you look at history, but I think you're right. It's how you look at it in hindsight. And in the end, it's led me down this way and it's all positive. So, in the end, you go, okay, well, that's just how it was, and I dealt with it the best I could at the time, and try not to beat yourself up with, again, how you felt you dealt with those situations and your feelings and how you were with everyone, to then go, okay, well, it's led me down this path now, and not get too caught up in it.
Well, it's easy to reflect back on it and just sort of have a couple of sentences about it. Oh, it's, it's a positive thing, Well,
I know there's a lot more to it, but that's sort of how you'd look at it.
Yeah.
I think the importance of environment and
Like giving
the
people,
relationships that you have with people. You know, I think unfortunately, and I was talking to, I think it was to Dad about this recently. Well, I was talking to his dad actually, on the phone, and we were just talking about how business was run, sort of when he was working, 50s, 60s, 70s.
this your
sort of stuff.
grandfather?
Yeah, grandfather, and he worked for Qantas and as like a route analyzer sort of guy, would go out and test routes and do all the financials and all that sort of stuff, plan everything. Anyway, so we're talking about all of that and hearing about how business was conducted on trips and when people would meet in different countries and those sorts of things and how they'd come together compared to how people work together now was quite interesting. Hearing that and then sort of seeing what you see, and hosting dinner parties with people that you work with, all that crap, right? That people probably look at now and go, ugh, work with home life, horrible. And I understand that completely, right?
Yeah.
I think the desire to split the two has become so great that people then don't have very good relationships with the people they work with. It's kind of gone so far that there is just that surface level for the majority of people. Yeah, of course, you have the few that you like and you have a better relationship with. But I think for the majority, there's a very, surface level relationship with people you work with because there's been such a desire to make sure that your work and home life are separate as much as possible because you want to be present at home and you want to be present at work and all those sorts of things. But yeah, hearing that was interesting because it was so relationship based. It was lots of events and things at home and hospitality and how they work together and the hours they spent together and all those sorts of things. It was very relationship based and in-person based and lots of travel and those things. And I understand why that doesn't happen as much, but it's just interesting to see the difference.
That we've gone a little bit
I think
backwards.
we've gone a little bit backwards, beyond the, not sort of understanding the importance. I think people know, but I think people care about keeping things separate more than those relationships. Yeah. Which, hurts when you're at work, unfortunately.
Well, look,
some people,
I just look at your situation where you spent 12 years at a business and then it finishes like that, it's just like,
it finishes in an hour, right?
And it's just like,
and no one knows. So
the respect, or lack of, just from a, not even a 12 years thing, but just a human being.
Well, it's just a normal, respectful sort of thing. Would be, I don't want anything. I don't desire for a goodbye or or a cake or whatever you want to do. I don't care about any of that. That's not the thing. I just wanted to be open and honest about things, and that wasn't the case. And unfortunately, that makes you feel a bit down about, okay, well, I've been here for that long, makes you think about how they think about people who have been there
a little bit less
a month,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it's interesting about that, right? Like it's sort of, you like you mentioned, there's some great things about, the split there and, work life, balance and all that sort of stuff. But
because there is that push, the legal, contacting employees outside of hours illegal and all these sorts of things, are happening to protect people from being, at work when they're not getting paid and all that sort of stuff, right? For wages staff especially and part-timers and casuals and things like that. And I understand because people do take advantage of people 100%. But as a result, I think it goes the other way where you lose
sight of the person.
You lose sight of the person and people just see people as tools as opposed to like, other people, unfortunately. So it was interesting to hear that sort of and see the comparison.
Was he surprised when you sort of mentioned like about your experiences?
Yeah, he was surprised. I think it's just because that's what he was used to and that's how they did things and everything was so intertwined, I guess, around work and home and you knew people's families and all those sorts of things. But so he was like, oh, okay, it's interesting. I don't know how it'd go now. I'm not saying that wives should be holding dinner parties and all these things, but I'm not saying that far either, but I think it's just, it's taken the importance of just, having some level of relationship with someone.
That building of relationships, right, and being at a point where you can invite your colleagues over to your home and you're inviting them, and how that feels for them to be invited, whether they come or not, right? Like, and for you to entertain or, and just want to hang out with them socially, right? It's like, that goes a long way, that sort of stuff. We could catch up at a restaurant or a bar or whatever that may be. And, we can do that with our partners or whatever it is. But when you're actually inviting someone to your home, like it says a lot, like, hey, I respect you enough, care for you enough that I would like you to.
That I'm comfortable.
Comfortable is a good point.
And I'm not suggesting that needs to be the norm. I just think it's just gone too far.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about all the flying stuff and seeing the, I suppose, the enthusiasm with what you're speaking about, and knowing you for a little bit and hearing about how you're actually enjoying study and getting through theory and all that sort of stuff, and knowing how much you hate it is
different.
So it says to me that you've found something, which I'm really pleased for you, mate, and
thanks, mate.
Really appreciative of you talking about your experiences.
That's all right. It's good to talk about. I enjoyed it, even though this is not my comfortable zone whatsoever. I have to listen to myself, but it's all right.
Yeah. No, well, you're in good company there, mate. I'm one of those as
good.
well. But I wish you well, mate, with
the
finishing up the flying school, and and hopefully it comes a little bit clearer with what you're going to do next. And
well, that's all right. No, thanks for having me. It's all good.
No, beautiful. Thank you, mate.
Cheers.